What is happening, beautiful people? Today I want to talk about that Gillette ad. Now, I am not a huge fan of the Gillette ad, but I think there are some interesting points in it, and there is actually some good points to it as well, even though overall, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Alright, let's get into this video. Let's have a little bit of a look, take a little bit of analysis about it, and we'll see what we can take away from it. Toxic masculinity. I'm going to go on about this a lot today, but I'm not a fan of that phrase.
This is the best a man can get. Is it? We can't hide from it.
It's very bleak. It doesn't set the world as a very nice place. Pretty negative and pretty shit.
It's been going on far too long. We can't laugh it off. Making the same old excuses.
Then it goes into sort of saying that like men don't really treat women very well, and I can completely agree that some men really don't treat women well. But again, it paints this image of dudes like we're all pieces of shit. Now maybe that's not the case. Maybe they're saying it's very specific, but to me personally, it feels like men suck and they don't take care of women, and it just seems like we're like pretty rude and pretty like bunch of assholes, really.
But something finally changed.
Now this is an interesting point. The boys will be boys part. I do think it is important that men should be men. And I see these two kids wrestling. Now, I personally see that as like a bit of fun, like, you know, a bit of roughhousing, which is good as a kid. Now, I guess, obviously, if it goes too far and it becomes bullying and stuff, that's not good. But I also think it's kind of good. It's kind of important as men to be tough, to grow up a little bit rough, like not just making life so easy for ourselves, because you know, if every time we get into a fight or a situation that we can't handle, we have to cry out to our dad or our mom, how are we ever going to learn and get better and, you know, and build that like degree of resilience at the same time? So now it's got all those screens there, and it's saying pretty much that, you know, all these like these negative things about men, and again, it's this toxic masculinity. Now, I don't think toxic masculinity exists, because there is such a thing as toxic femininity. What it is, toxic masculinity is a myth to me, because it's just certain men are shit. Now, you can't like take that across the whole sort of like all of men and say that, you know, that there exists this like sort of subculture. It's just some guys are shit guys.
Because we believe in the best in men. Men need to hold other men accountable.
I will say, one point there, Terry Crews. Terry Crews is fucking awesome. And I think Terry Crews is a very interesting situation there, because he's talking about his own sexual assault, and he had his problems there. And he's like a real champion for women's rights and feminism, and I can totally get behind him. Terry Crews is the epitome of men. So, I mean, to attack men and then use him, I don't know.
To say the right thing, to act the right way. Some already are.
Yes, some men already are. There is no need to go out and attack every other man. Some men are doing a good job.
And when he's big and small.
And then it shows a couple of nice little clips of like things on the internet of like men being good men and being good parents, being good fathers. It seems to really come across that men aren't being good enough fathers in this message, which I think can be a bit of a huge problem. But it's, again, you come across as a preacher, you're telling people what to do.
But some is not enough. Someone treat each other, okay? Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
I like that. That's true. The boys of today will become the men of tomorrow. And it is so important to set a good precedent. But it does, in my opinion, the reason I don't like this ad is it paints the world in such a negative light. As if, you know, men are sort of ruining the world. Now, maybe I've just got my own prejudices, and of course I've got my own biases, because I am like a straight male guy. I'm going to have my own opinions and things like that. But it starts off really shit, really bleak, and it ends towards this nice sort of like inspirational mood. So I think it's delivering a nice message, but it's a little bit patronizing, which is the problem here. And I think that, you know, I mean, absolutely, no matter what it is in life, you can always improve, you can always be better. But it just comes across as a little bit too much like the world is so damn shit. And, you know, some men are okay and we can eventually fix it. It comes across as far too preachy to me. And there's certain things here which I just think were just taken to the extreme. Which is why I'm not a huge fan of it. But I have to admit, upon further viewing it again and again and again, I see that this message perhaps comes from a good place. And what came across as first, my initial reaction was like, fuck Gillette, I'm not buying any of the razors. Because I don't really care. I get where they're coming from, I just don't think they've marketed it very well. So let's go through the pros and cons of this ad and sort of help us to like get a bit of an idea of it. So the first thing I want to say is that in the pro opinion, men should and can be better. Most of us are, I believe. So, I mean, we all have the potential to be better than what we are yesterday, and we can definitely improve and be a better guy, be a better man, be a better father, be a better husband, be a better figure for men in this world. And I really like that about this ad. The end of this advertisement ends with a lot of optimism and possibility. It sort of says that, you know, these young boys can grow up to become anything they want, and they can change and improve the world. And finally, you know, if you interpret this in the correct way, you can really get inspired from it if you take the positive messages from it and the possibilities and the abilities that we have to improve. Let's go into the negative side of things here, and these are the cons for it. It starts off bleak, dark, negative, and the opinion of men and masculinity just doesn't look good. It just looks like we're just like a bunch of assholes who just like fight each other and bully other people and men, and that we just harass women and things like that. Now, I know that they're not trying to say that to everyone, but it comes across that way. Don't like the line, boys will be boys, because I think that to an extent, we're softening people up too much and people are getting too weak. If you have someone who's bullying you at school, I think you should fight back. You don't go and cry to your mum. You don't go and cry to your dad. You learn how to throw a punch. That's just my opinion. Maybe that's not the most politically correct or the most peaceful or the most loving or whatever the thing is, but I think it's so important that we learn to like solve our own problems, because there's going to be bullies in the world, and by being strong, by being, not boys to be boys, men should be men. That's what I believe. Toxic masculinity. I can't stand the term toxic masculinity, because I just think it's such a cop-out. You know, if I said toxic femininity, or, you know, just saying that there's like this negative like subculture that we praise. Like if someone's a rapist, we put him in jail. If you're a murderer, we put you in jail. If you do bad shit happens to you. We don't encourage it, in my opinion. There's always rare cases, but I just don't think as a society as a whole that we encourage toxic masculinity. So let's sort of like get back to the point of what I'm saying is why it's winding people up. And this is pretty much my opinion, is that when you tell people that men suck and should be better, people don't like that. And that's their main demographic, it's men. It's a very good way to alienate that demographic, which is all these men who, you know, some of them are going to go, you know, fuck you, I'm not going to buy your razor. So I don't know if that's a really smart marketing move on their behalf. It's a brave one in the sense that they're trying to be inspiring and uplifting, and I can get behind that, but I don't like the picture of the world they make it now. It's got to be, if they went half-assed in this, it wouldn't be very notable. So in their defense, they really went for it, and they really tried to set this scene, and that's why it's getting so much attention. I think that men should never be ashamed of being men, and also that men are not responsible for the worst in other men. You just have to be the best version of yourself and be a role model for other people, which I kind of think is what the ad is getting to the point of. So to sum up what I'm trying to say here is there's a couple of good points in this ad. I don't like the way that the environment, the world is portrayed in it, but in the end, it is a somewhat inspiring ad. And if you can step back, and I'm trying to step back from this, because my initial reaction was, fuck this company, fuck Gillette, whereas now I'm going, you know what? They're coming from a good place. They want men to be better. And that's exactly what I want. I want men to be better as well. Don't boycott Gillette. Form your own opinion. Step back. Try and see it from someone else's opinion. You might get a different vantage point. You might be able to take away something different and something positive from this ad, which is the one thing I want you to take away from this is that men can be better men. There is nothing stopping us from improving and making this world better. I'm going to leave that here today, guys. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. All the best. Peace! And I'll speak to you extremely soon.